Now it's time to take a closer look at the top news story of the week. And I think we would all agree that the biggest news story this week was a massive rumor and now announcement that HPE is going to acquire Juniper Networks. Yes, this is confirmed. HPE is confirmed to be paying $40 per share, or approximately $14 billion for Juniper Networks. Juniper started off as a big player in the service provider space in terms of networking before making strategic acquisitions of companies like Mist Systems and Apstra, and has now become a force in the wireless and data center networking space. Not only that, but Juniper has really strong AI integration, and that has networking analysts buzzing about integration of Juniper's AI software and in complementary product lines across HPE. Tom, you know these products best. Give us the lowdown. What's the scoop?
Well, I had no idea this was coming. You may recall in our year end, I talked about how HPE Aruba was kind of becoming an ascendant part of that company. And then here we're 2 weeks into 2024. And I knew something was up when, no kidding, 14 different people texted me on Monday night going, whoa. And that was when I knew I needed to dig into this, because when nobody knows what's going on and they all find out at the same time, that tends to tell me that all these conversations are happening kind of up at the board level. And if you look at what just happened, Juniper went through a massive round of restructuring. Like, a lot of people were laid off, a lot of product lines were consolidated down and things like that. A lot of people were kind of wondering, is this a bad thing for Juniper? No, it really turns out they were probably readying themselves to be acquired. That's pretty common in these kinds of things. But of course, from the outside, we had no way of knowing that. There's a lot of parts to this whole thing that are not going to make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And to tell you how crazy this is, I've got my space heater running right now because, oh lordy, are there some hot takes out there. If you pick a random analyst, they're going to have their take on it. Pick a different random analyst and they'll have the completely opposite take on the whole thing. Just reading through it yesterday, even before everything was confirmed, I felt like whiplash. You go from one, this is a great move for both of these companies. There's a lot of things that are going to be helpful in this, to, oh my God, what are they thinking? This is the worst thing that could possibly happen in the networking space. And I hope the regulators shut this down and consider it a monopoly. And I'm just sitting over here with like my popcorn going, keep it up, folks. This is great. So, Stephen, I know you probably have some questions that you want to get to because there's a lot of moving parts to this. So I'm going to let you tell me where you think our listeners want to go.
Absolutely. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask the obvious question. It is AI year. Juniper has done a fantastic job. I mean, we've seen them at AI Field Day, we've seen them at Networking Field Day, Cloud Field Day. They have done a fantastic job with AI integration, AI-powered integration. So what does AI have to do with this story?
It has a lot to do with this story. I remember having a conversation last year, or maybe even the year before, with a company that was competing against Juniper. And they said, anytime anybody brings up AI, we know we're in for a fight because Juniper owns the AI space, period. End of discussion. They have very intelligent people doing a lot of great development to make Marvis, their AI platform, not only work on wireless, which was where it started, but across the whole product portfolio. Could you imagine getting something as powerful as Marvis integrated with something as overarching as Aruba Central? Because I bet you that's what the people at Aruba, HPE Aruba, and Juniper were thinking. The software stack that they have developed to do all of this AI learning is second to none. And when you look at where they're even taking it, so if you remember, what March-ish was when everybody completely blew up about using LLMs and GPT algorithms and all these things, right? We had a conversation with the whiz kids at Juniper in May, and they were already talking about how to leverage LLMs with their existing AI to do things like natural language queries of knowledge databases. And it's just going to keep growing from there. So I think AI has a lot to do with this, and I think AI is going to be one of the focuses of what's going on here, but it's not the only reason that they're getting bought.
Yeah, absolutely, and I concur. I'd love to see it integrated with Aruba Central, but what about everything else HPE makes? I mean, that's actually something HPE has done a marvelous job of, is taking key technologies from companies that they've purchased. I'm thinking like Nimble Storage, also, of course, Aruba, and integrating those with the broad array of HPE products to make a much better customer friendly environment. And then, of course, there's the incredible success HPE has had with GreenLake and the as a service market as well, which integrates nicely with this too. But one of the things that I'm thinking about, Tom, is I know Juniper Networks for a long time. They are the darling of the network service provider market. What does this mean for that market?
It means a lot for if you're HPE Aruba. I mean, do you go buy your service provider routers from HPE right now? Mm-mm, you don't. This is a brand new product area for HP Aruba to get into. And I know that the service provider market has been de-emphasized at Juniper for a while. All you really hear about is enterprise, wireless, data center, a lot of the stuff that they're doing. But just like you don't really hear about mainframes at IBM anymore, it doesn't mean that they're gone. It means it's a mature product category that's producing revenue. So I think what's probably going to happen is that the service provider part of that equation is going to get integrated into HPE Aruba, which honestly is probably just going to be HPE networking now. But it's going to be a separate business unit. It's going to be like a separate division under the networking portfolio that does their own thing. Part of the reason for that is because Juniper spins their own ASICs for their service provider routers. So, not to go down that deep rabbit hole, but basically they are custom building chips to do what service providers need at scale very quickly. And that's a valuable thing. But you don't want to try to commingle that with your existing enterprise product lines, whether they be campus or even data center networking. So I think what you're going to see is that they're going to be kind of like, oh, little Timmy, it's great that you're a part of our club now. Go sit over there. But that's a good thing, because as long as they keep producing and as long as they keep their market share, that's going to be a valuable tool for HPE, because it also allows them to get into deals now where they're selling into service providers that need the whole stack. So it's not just GreenLake now, it's GreenLake and connectivity. And if you need those weird edge use cases, now we have a solution for you.
Well, it's smart that you keep mentioning Aruba because, of course, HPE has been in a pretty good position in the enterprise WLAN or Wi-Fi market for a long time. Cisco is the undisputed leader. I'm looking at some IDC information here from last year that shows that Cisco has over 40% of the enterprise WLAN market. HPE Aruba is number two with 16% of the market. Then we've got Huawei, Ubiquiti, CommScope, and Juniper Networks. Juniper only has about 4% of the enterprise Wi-Fi market, but as we've seen at our mobility field day events, Juniper has a very, very strong product there, specifically, as you talked about, with their AI-powered network management solutions. Tom, talk to me a little bit about the impact of this on the enterprise Wi-Fi market.
I think it's funny that we talk about the fact that, as you rank the IDC reports, Juniper's way down there, but they are punching way above their weight. They always have been, because they understand the hardware really doesn't matter. I mean, aside from maybe the fact that Mist APs can clip into brackets from Cisco APs, that's about the only hardware importance that people have. The value's in the software. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Juniper doesn't even make their own APs. They have reference designs that they modify. That means that the software stack, the pieces that are important, can be easily ported to other access points, like HPE Aruba access points. And I think that that's where you're going to see a lot of this happening. Again, hot takes for days. You can roast chestnuts over these things. Everybody is either saying, this is my favorite kind of dichotomy of the hot takes. Fans of HPE Aruba are going to say that they're going to take the best parts of Mist Juniper and kick out the rest. Fans of Mist Juniper are like, this is a reverse acquisition. We're going to take over their networking department and we're going to own the place in like 3 months. Surprisingly, they're both wrong. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a much tighter integration in the software side of things. And by all accounts, and I'm being honest when I say this, and this is the feedback of the community, Aruba has needed some help with their software development for a while. I know that we just saw a brand new Central when we went to Aruba Atmosphere last year, but I think that they need some people who are focused on the development side to kind of go in there and say, okay, here's what we want to do to transform this even more. We want to integrate all of these pieces together. Great, let's do that. But I don't think that you're going to have this huge argument about, well, whose APs are we going to use and what color are they going to be and this and that. Nobody cares. Put the software on it and let the software do what it's supposed to do. I don't care. Brackets, that's the only thing I care about, as long as I can clip it onto the wall. So I think that this has the potential to catapult. Well, first of all, it's going to catapult Juniper Mist into second place automatically, but I think it's going to allow them to start closing that gap, because now you have a proven software stack with great feature functionality with a marketing and sales arm that can get you into more accounts where you're competing directly head to head.
So, Tom, looking beyond enterprise WLAN, Wi-Fi specifically, let's talk about some of the other areas that there's some synergy here. One of the topics that we've been talking about quite a lot is CBRS. This is something that's been growing, and Aruba has made some key acquisitions in this space. The other thing is SASE, which is a big topic in enterprise networking and security. Can you talk a little bit about what Aruba brings to the table for Juniper and HPE as a whole when it comes to those markets?
So we talked earlier about the fact that HPE Aruba, HPE networking is going to have a huge impact because they're getting this service provider business line. Well, just like that, Juniper Networks gets these CBRS, private LTE deployments, and SASE and SSE. You may have heard that there's been some rumblings that Juniper is working on a CBRS product. I know this because it keeps popping up on dashboards when they do demos at Mobility Field Day, and they keep getting asked about it, and they keep being all coy, like, oh yeah, I think something's coming. Now it's there because we know that. HPE Aruba made a huge acquisition last year. We talked about it on the year-end rundown, where they're picking up a huge private LTE deployment. So now they can immediately jump into that market and start competing with the other players that are there. Also, they can start looking at other technologies like Open RAN, because now that they have the technology to do that on both sides of the fence, both the radio technology and the networking technology, they can really start building on it. So I have high hopes there. But more importantly, they move into the SASE and SSE market. They have been working on an SD-WAN style product thanks to the acquisitions that they got through 128 Technologies back in the day, a company that we talked to in Boston. But when you look at HPE Aruba's pedigree with all the stuff that they've been developing, first with Silver Peak and then with the Axis Security acquisition last year, they are miles ahead of where everybody else is. And I think that that's going to give them a huge advantage as they go in and start selling into these campus and edge environments. Because a lot of what Juniper has been trying to do is they've been trying to break into that whole Cisco Viptela, VMware, VeloCloud type market. And it's been hard going. But likewise, with HPE Aruba, I mean, they've been scaling this business up. But one of the biggest questions has been, okay, what's your security play? And then there's a lot of like side glances because they haven't had a security play. Well, Juniper has one. They have SRX. And so I think that this is a more holistic solution, and it's going to make people a lot happier going forward. So I think that there's a lot of complementary stuff here. I know that people are focused on the enterprise switching and the wireless and how there's so much overlap. These companies are more than just one product line. And I think where they mesh well, they're going to mesh together very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's the interesting thing. It would be easy to take a quick look at this and say, oh, there's tons of product overlap. This is a networking company and HPE already has networking, things like that. That really isn't the case because networking is not a monolithic market at all. There are many, many areas. And what we find as we look in this in detail is that pretty much everywhere where Juniper Networks is a leader, Aruba and HPE is rushing to catch up. Everywhere where Aruba and HPE are leaders or strong contenders, Juniper Networks was rushing to catch up. And so the combination of these two things, well, it makes a lot more sense than I think a lot of people would imagine. That's what we see from internally here with the Futurum Group as well. Daniel Newman just wrote that he's really bullish on that because he sees as well that there's a lot more synergy here than there is overlap. Let's take a look, though, at the combination, Tom. So, assuming that this thing happens, most people are suggesting that Rami Rahim will be the leader of the future HPE networking group and, frankly, a major presence within HPE generally. Tell us a little bit more about him and what do you know of him and how will that work out as part of HPE?
Rami's a fighter. He has been putting together a team designed to do one thing, go after Cisco really hard. And it has succeeded for the most part. I mean, like we mentioned in just a few minutes ago, you wouldn't know that Juniper Mist was what, fifth, sixth, seventh on the list of IDC because of how big they're punching above their weight, making big splashes, having important conversations, shifting the topic. Like I said at the beginning of the thing, as soon as you start talking about AI, it's a done deal because everybody knows who the leader is in AI. That kind of leadership is something that you want in your business unit. All due deference to Phil Mottram. He was on stage last year at Aruba Atmosphere. I'm sure he's a great person, but is he the right person to lead this gigantic business unit? I don't know. I think Rami is the right person to do it. Everyone that I've ever talked to has had positive things to say about Rami, and he has a wonderful team around him. When you look at all of the people that work for him or under him, they are great. I challenge you to go watch any video that was recorded at Mobility Field Day featuring Sudhir Mata and not want to jump up and down with infectious energy, or listen to someone like Bob Friday, who has built an amazing reputation in the industry and not come away being super impressed by what he is capable of. And that's just two examples. Look up and down at any of the acquisitions that they've made or any of the management folks that they've put in place. And I think what you're going to find is that by having Rami take over, bring in some of his people and reorganize the folks underneath him, that you're going to have a lean, mean group of people that are then set to launch and take over a lot of other areas. I know that HPE has been seen for years as a compute focused company. They are very driven by GreenLake. I mean, for a while, it felt like that was all they could talk about. But with this acquisition, with this $14 billion investment, they are a major player in the networking space. Yeah, there was a lot of places that HPE Aruba was already the number two. But this is not just scrapping for number two. This is far and away number two by a country mile. So now you're not just fighting for what's left from Cisco deals that don't close. Now you're a credible competitor and you have distance behind the people behind you. Now, that will also motivate the players that are behind them to get better, to innovate, to develop more, to change the conversation again. And that's what makes this whole thing so exciting to me. As we've seen in other spaces, let's just talk about Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA. When you're resting on your laurels because you're number one, you fall off. But when you only have one clear competitor, it's not that exciting. When you have another competitor that's willing to challenge you and change the conversation, that makes it better. Now, you may argue Juniper Networks going to HPE Aruba reduces the likelihood that one of those competitors is a clear third space. I would argue that it gives an opening for someone to step up into that while bolstering the clear second place winner or second place company to really challenge now. When you give them the resources and the know-how and the technology, the sky is the limit. And for everyone out there who's watching this or listening to this and they're shaking their fist and they're upset, because there are a lot of upset people. Let's not try to mince words here. There are people who are genuinely worried that HPE is where companies go to die. There are people who are genuinely worried that Mist is going to suck now because they don't have that freedom to do whatever they want. Give it time. Let the culture sort itself out. No acquisition happens overnight. No culture shift happens in a month or 6 months. I mean, look how long Cisco and Meraki kind of coexisted before that real integration started happening. I mean, the acquisition happened all the way back in, 2012? And we saw, the first really clear examples of that integration really starting to take hold. It took almost 10 years, really. I think that there's still a lot of room for growth. I think there's a lot of room for this to kind of play out. And ultimately, it's going to be a massive win for everybody if you were willing to let it. If your outlook walking into this is completely negative, I don't know what I can do to convince you.
Yeah, I concur. I think that the more I look at this, the more I think it makes sense. I'm not qualified to make a judgment on the financial aspect of this, and neither are you. That's not our thing. But from the technology perspective, I think this could really work. I think that it's time to give HPE a little bit of credit. I think Antonio Neri made a good move here. And I think this could really benefit both HPE and, of course, more importantly, HPE customers by having a truly strong competitor. Cisco is far and away the leader in so many areas of networking, and this will put HPE at least at the same table as Cisco in almost every networking segment. And I think that could be good for customers.
I think so too.